You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance. Friday, February 15th. We're on the edge of illegitimate president's weekend with Donald Trump as president. And today, Donald Trump tore up the U.S. Constitution because he cannot get neither Congress nor Mexico to pay for his monument to white supremacy. And that's where we are today. If you didn't see his press conference, let me read you some of the reviews. I've never seen so many lies in so little time, says one person. Another says, Trump deserves an Emmy for best work of fiction. And finally, another declared, I laughed, I cried, I'm moving to Canada. I'm the same person, all of that stuff. It was insane. Although Donald Trump did say something nice about me and my show. I know it's stunning, folks, but here's Donald Trump talking about my radio show and about my audience and how hard it is for me to do a 3-hour-a-day radio show. I know it's stunning, but here you go. Clip number one.
Rush Limbaugh, I think he's a great guy. He's a guy who can speak for 3 hours without a phone call. Try doing that sometime. For 3 hours he speaks. He's got one of the biggest audiences in the history of the world. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. Try speaking for 3 hours without taking calls. Taking calls is easy. Okay, I'll answer this one, I'll answer that one. He goes for 3 hours, and he's got an audience that's fantastic.
All right, well, obviously, the Rush Limbaugh part was in there. But if it wasn't in there, it could actually have been funny. So today, a lot of stuff went on. Yesterday, I was very, very upset about Donald Trump and about the national emergency. I am still upset. But Donald Trump's performance at his press conference was so horribly bad, so horrifically bad, on not just what he said and the optics, but on the legal argument for a national emergency. I'm feeling slightly better because I think he undermined his own case. And I'll play one or two clips. I don't like to play a lot of Trump. We all know that. But you have to hear one or two just so you can hear literally what is going on from this man. First of all, here's Donald Trump being asked by NBC's Peter Alexander a question about declaring a national emergency. And listen carefully as Donald Trump tells you while declaring a national emergency that he didn't need a national emergency, that it's not a national emergency. This is unreal. Clip number two.
The primary fight was on the wall. Everything else, we have so much, as I said, I don't know what to do with it. We have so much money. But on the wall, they skimped. So I was successful in that sense, but I want to do it faster. I could do the wall over a longer period of time. I didn't need to do this, but I'd rather do it much faster.
There you go, folks. That's part of the law in the lawsuit. That's part of the pleadings. The transcript of Donald Trump as president making the argument why it's an emergency, saying literally, I didn't have to do it this way. I could have built it over time. I just wanted to go faster. It's not really an emergency. That is so damning. Now, it's not a slam dunk, but it undermines his argument because it's being made at the very time he's trying to explain why this is an argument, why it should be. There were other things he did to undermine his argument. One, which is lying. He literally said, I don't need to play this clip, where he said, we've never had more people crossing the border illegally than now. That's an absolute lie. According to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency, part of the Trump administration, they said last fiscal year, the lowest levels of arrests since 1971, the peak of people crossing the border illegally, 2000. So it's not even close to the highest level. He just lies. Then they asked, and this was very interesting, he was asked, where do you get your facts from? This was remarkable. A reporter from CNN, Brian Karem, saying, and I'll preface it a little before we play the clip, saying, like, we get our facts from your own administration, from CBP, Customs Border Patrol, and ICE, and DHS. And what you're saying now doesn't line up with your own administration, so where do you get your facts from? And here's Trump, all like in a huff over it. Here's clip number 3, please.
Clarify where you get your numbers, because most of the DEA crimes reporting statistics that we see show that drugs are coming across at the ports of entry, that illegal immigration is down, and the violence is down. Okay. So what do you base your facts on?
Come on, let's go.
And secondly...
no, you get one. You get one.
Well, the second
just
question
is... Wait, sit down. Sit down.
Could you please answer?
Sit down. You get one question. I get my numbers from a lot of sources, like Homeland Security, primarily, and the numbers that I have from Homeland Security are a disaster.
So your own government stats are wrong, are you saying?
No, I use many stats.
Could you share those stats with us?
Let me tell you, you have stats that are far worse than the ones that I use. But I use many stats, but I also use Homeland Security. All right, next question.
And do you, wait a minute, just a quick follow-up, Mr.
Go, please.
That's the man who lives in the Oval Office, who lives in the White House. I got a lot of stats. Sean Hannity stats, Rush Limbaugh stats. I used to get them from Ann Coulter, but she doesn't like me anymore, and we'll talk about that later. Again, I won't play another clip, but he undermined his own argument, but he caught himself. This was very interesting. In the middle of his talking about the opioid crisis in America, and there is one. About 130 Americans die daily from opioid overdoses. He mentioned fentanyl, which is a synthetic opioid. And he goes, and I met with the leader of China, the president of China, and told him the idea of, you got to deal with this fentanyl thing. And then all of a sudden he goes on this tangent about death penalty because he realized at that moment the fentanyl in our country primarily comes from China. It's not coming over the southern border. So he was about to undermine his argument. And just so it's clear for everyone, in 2017, 70,000 Americans died of drug overdoses. 28,000 were from fentanyl or their analogs, meaning from China, not from the southern border. So in any event, and as we all know, and it's been brought up many times, that the primary place that drugs cross our border is not in the open areas. And think about it. Drugs are a valuable commodity. So are you going to trust it on someone running through the desert overnight and you hope they make it? And how much can they actually carry? Or are you going to put it in a car or a truck or an RV and hope it doesn't get inspected? And that's how they come through. They come through the ports. $1 million from a Treasury Department drug forfeiture fund and $2.5 million from a Pentagon drug prevention program. So that's about $8 billion. He needs 25 to 30 or more billion to build his wall. So this is minor. And another big reminder, and I wish it would get talked about more, to build this wall on just the Texas-Mexico border, it's 1,200 miles. How much does the government own of that 1,200 miles? 100. Meaning we have to seize the private land of 1,100 people. You imagine a federal agent comes to your house one day and you live down there and you're like, sorry, we're going to have to seize a big part of your property. You'll be compensated. And you say, well, did Congress approve this? They go, no. It was just the president sitting at his desk and he's taking your land to make Sean Hannity happy. That's it. That's the answer. It really is Sean Hannity on his show a few days ago said, Trump, I want you to do this emergency. And he did that. And this is unreal. Now, a lot of people on the right are just spewing garbage about Obama had emergencies. There's been 55, 56 state emergencies declared by presidents over the years. That's absolutely true. I looked at all of them. You know what they deal with? Things like, I'll read one. President Obama's May 16, 2012. National emergency with respect to blocking property of persons threatening the peace, security, or stability of Yemen. That was one of them. Here's one by Trump, December 2017. National emergency with respect to blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. Impose sanctions on the Myanmar general for his role prosecuting the Muslims there. You get the idea. There's sanctions. The only two times money's been allocated through these national emergencies were one, before the first Iraq War, and two, after 9/11. And Congress didn't object because there are times of war. That's why Donald Trump keeps saying invasion, invasion, invasion. You get the idea. There's no national emergency like this where a president went to Congress, asked for permission or an appropriation, and they said no. And he goes, you know what? I'm doing a national emergency. Screw you people. And folks, there's less people crossing the border now than there was 2 years ago when the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate, and he could have passed this. But he didn't do it because now it's a game. And yesterday I called out all the right-wing hypocrisy. Hypocrisy over the years from Chuck Grassley and Ted Cruz calling Obama a king. But here's two more clips of this hypocrisy. Here's Mike Pence, 2014, as governor of Indiana, talking about President Obama, who had just signed an executive order dealing with immigration at the time. And listen very closely to Mike Pence then, 2014, not that long ago. Here's clip number 4.
I think it would be a profound mistake for the President of the United States to overturn American immigration law with the stroke of a pen. The President ought to sit down in January with the new Republican majority in the Senate and the historically large new majority in the House and search for common ground. That's what leadership looks like. Signing an executive order, giving a speech, barnstorming around the country, defending that executive order is not leadership.
There you go. Mike Pence, it's not leadership what Trump has just done. Now, 5 years later, he's defending it. Oh, it's completely fine. What? I love the fact, and we all know the GOP was just hypocritical and full of crap, to be nice. But they've shown it now. It is so great that they're playing the clips from just a few years ago with Obama, just 4 or 5 years ago. And now, and here is even better. Here's Donald Trump on Fox and Friends in 2014, after President Obama signed an executive order on DACA. And Donald Trump, listen closely, says it's grounds for impeachment. Here you go, clip number 5.
Well, Donald, has the president done something worthy of impeachment, and should he be impeached?
Well, he certainly did something that was unconstitutional. Now, it depends on Justice Roberts if he wants to just curry favor in the Beltway like he did with Obamacare, because that's the only reason he did it, because he knows he was wrong. But it certainly depends on what happens. I mean, I think certainly he could be impeached.
Certainly he could be impeached. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you very much. Now, I don't think the Democrats are going to do impeachment. The response has been extremely swift. In fact, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer all tweeted that clip of Donald Trump saying it's not even an emergency. Again, that's not a slam dunk, but it's very, very instructive to a court. It's going to be very telling. Here's Senator Kamala Harris today slamming that the money's being taken from our military for projects midstream and private properties being taken, which I think is such an important argument because Republicans forever have told us they are against the intrusive government. They want to keep government out of your life, except that they can take 1,000 miles of private property by the stroke of a pen of a president. Think about this. If this is upheld, the next president, a Democrat, if we're allowed to have elections again and Trump doesn't suspend elections, can sign by sitting in his office, I am taking every AR-15 from every American in this country. You will be compensated, but we're taking it because it's an emergency. He can do that. That's what Donald Trump has done here. By saying you can take property because I signed my pen, not Congress, we can take anything from you. So gun owners on the right, your AR-15 are gone. They're going to be gone. We're going to take them. You will be compensated. Be aware of that. That's exactly what's going to happen. Here's Senator Kamala Harris, clip number 6.
I think that this declaration of an emergency is completely unnecessary. It is playing politics with taxpayer resources. It is about creating a crisis of his own making because of a vanity project that he feels he needs to pursue. When we look at the real effect of this on American families and on American taxpayers, we are looking at the possibility, the very real possibility of diverting military resources for this vanity project. We're looking at the real possibility of eminent domain, of literally government taking private homeowners and private landowners' land, especially if you look at areas of New Mexico and Texas. And then again, back to the point about a crisis of his own making. Look, I was a prosecutor. I have visited the border. I have visited the ports of entry. You want to deal with illegal drugs entering the United States. That's in the ports of entry.
There you go. Well put, Senator Harris. And from a legislative, just so you know what's going on in the House, Congressman Joaquin Castro from Texas, who leads the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, plans to introduce a resolution to formally terminate the executive order. Just as it goes mechanically, the House can pass a resolution under the Federal Emergencies Act there of 1976. Then it goes to the Senate. Like any other piece of legislation, even though it's a resolution, if the Senate were to pass it by a majority, it would go to Donald Trump. Then Donald Trump would, of course, veto it. Then we're going to see, can you get enough Republicans to override his veto? And if you can, he is stopped. That's the only way legislatively. The other side, Democrats are planning to file a lawsuit against the administration, which Donald Trump talked about today at his press conference. I won't waste your time playing it, but he said, touting and patting himself on the back on the Muslim ban, saying, people said I was going to lose on the Muslim ban. Look, I won on that. He didn't say Muslim, he calls it the ban now. And he did win. And here's the thing. I don't want anyone to hope that this Republican-appointed Supreme Court-controlled Supreme Court is going to do the right thing, because I can't guarantee you that. I can tell you, if we were in the old days when the Supreme Court was above politics, yes, I have as a lawyer and from a legal background, looking at the earlier cases on this, I'm very confident that a federal court should say to Donald Trump, it's wrong. So I'm actually hoping that legislatively they can do this through the House and the Senate. And you put Republicans in the Senate on the hook. Let America see where do you stand. As I said last night, over this national emergency, you either stand with Trump or you stand with the United States of America on this issue. There's not two sides to this issue. You either stand with our Constitution. Article 1 says Congress is the only government agency entity that has the power to allocate money, appropriate money, tax people. President, there's nothing there in Article 2 for that. He can only execute the laws. He is literally making up his own laws, spending money in violation of what Congress has already approved. And this should upset you regardless where you are on the spectrum. And here's the weirdest thing. Trump was getting $1.375 billion as part of his wall. We're going to have the debt ceiling fight in a month from now. He probably could have got a little bit more from then. Then the budget's up in September. He probably could have got another $1 billion then. By the time we got closer to 2020, he could have legally had probably maybe a quarter of the wall built. And then went to everyone in 2020 and make it the campaign issue. Instead, he did an illegitimate power grab, which should upset anyone who believes in our Constitution. That's really it. If you believe in our Constitution, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3 of the Constitution, separation of powers, checks and balances, you cannot support this because there's no other side to this one. It's a no-brainer. It really is. It's like law school day one stuff. You can't do this. But Donald Trump did it not because it's good public policy, not because most Americans agree with it, because they don't. Even a Fox News poll yesterday, as I read for everyone, only about 33% of Americans think declaring a national emergency is a good thing, while 55% say no. It makes Sean Hannity happy, Rush Limbaugh happy, not Ann Coulter. She's really upset with him. All right, so we got a lot of guests tonight. We're going to try to take calls in between guests. Let's take a quick break. We'll be able to take a call. Then we're going to have a 2020 Democratic candidate for president, John Delaney, former congressman from Maryland, who's been in Iowa and New Hampshire countless times now. Just opened up the first office in New Hampshire of any Democratic presidential candidate. Just opened it up this week up there. So let's take a break, come back, try to take some calls in between. Look, it's time the media start calling out Trump's false statements for what they are. Lies. Trump is a liar. And by the looks of it, he's lying every day and twice on Sundays.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.